Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Happy Productive Podcast. I am so excited to announce my guest today, Miss Amy Reeves. She's the founder and CEO of Job Coach Amy, where she leverages her 25 years of experience as an executive and hiring manager to help professionals at all levels of their careers find and keep jobs that make them happy. Welcome, Amy, to the show today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, so tell us just a little bit. It's one thing to read a bio, but just give us a little bit of background information on how did you get from, where you started to where you are today in doing this work?
Sure. So let me tell you a little bit about, I'm going to come back to where I started originally, because that's much more closely linked to what I'm doing now than where I've been for the last 30 years. But I will tell you, I started out on Wall Street in a bank training program, and I went to business school, and I was a management consultant for many years globally. Did a lot of international work, did mostly strategy work, a lot of business process redesign, and really fell in love with the idea that, I came in and did work that big division owners and CEOs and CFOs and COOs, didn't really quite have the time to do. So it was a real privilege to go in and say, talk to people and say, if I had the time to do this work, I would figure out this problem or look at this opportunity in depth. So that was really fun. I got to know a lot of different industries, a lot of different executives, and find out what really worked for them, what didn't. And of course, a huge amount of that is people, not just technology or operations, but really how the people that run them. So I learned a lot about what makes people tick, what makes jobs tick, what's good about them, what makes someone good in a job, what makes someone not in a good job, on a really detailed level, and a lot about what happens in companies that have different industries and markets. And I was a single mom for a while. I struggled. I had all sorts of issues, like most people do in their career. And I stepped around a lot of different places because I just liked steep learning curves. And I after I had been on the road for a very long time, I took a job I actually started a small company, sold it, went to work for our main client, stayed there for 10 years, had a baby, got divorced, and then had to figure out how to get a job where I wasn't a consultant because I couldn't travel all the time, but I did find a job running a consulting firm. So I've also been an executive and a nonprofit executive. At any rate, I remarried. My husband said, "What is it you really want to do?" And I knew exactly what I wanted because, and again, I'll go back to the start. When I was getting out of college, I had a terrible, terrible time because I wanted this Wall Street training program. And I thought I did everything right. I had a good GPA from a good school. I had a really nice skirt suit. I thought I was on top of my game, and I could barely get an interview. All my friends went marching off to these jobs, and I got a job out of the Wall Street Journal, out of the New York Times classifieds. Ask your parents if you don't know what those are. And I liked it, but I spent the entire year learning about these Wall Street programs, learning what you did in them, learning what the banks really did, learning how you were measured. And the next year, I got the first job that I applied to. And I loved it, and I was good at it. So I was still stunned, like, what's the difference from the year before? And the basic answer was, I just didn't know how to interview. I didn't know anything about those banks. I didn't know anything about those programs, and nobody had ever told me. So throughout my career, I had always been the person when someone came into the office and said, like, oh my God, my neighbor's kid wants to get into this business, or, my nephew wants to get in. I have no idea what to tell him. I was always say, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. My first love was always counseling people in their career. I always believed in managing people, which was not a very valued skill, frankly, either as a manager, either on consulting or in corporate life. And it was just stuff that I really loved doing. So I put together what I thought was the most basic common sense methodology about recruiting and job searching and management, frankly. And I thought that was what I could do with just kids getting out of school. And it turns out I actually work with people in transition at all levels and up to the C-suite. because that common sense doesn't exist everywhere. And there's also people who have been extremely successful in their career have never had to look for a job before, but maybe they get to be, almost to the CEO level, and there's one or two people and they're not the one person. So they're like, now what do I do? So I really like working with people at all levels. And that's what I'm doing now. And it's been a lot of fun. I just recently published a book called College to Career Explained: Tools, Skills, and Confidence for Your Job Search. So I wrote my first book about my first love, and but I do consulting and all courses and all sorts of things for all levels. So that's me, and that's what I do, and it's really fun. It's definitely, it almost feels like a calling. I really do love it, and all the things that have happened to me through my career, and everything's happened to me. I mean, I've been in positions where I was the golden child, promoted above other people. I've been fired. I've been through it all, and it never seemed to be leading anywhere, but turns out it was, because I've had all these experiences that I can share with clients, and it feels really great. So I'm in a very happy position of my career that I never knew that this crooked path was actually leading me somewhere, but turns out it was.
Isn't that something, how all of our crooked paths, they tend to just like lead us where we need to go, and that you found this
Yeah.
work that you absolutely love doing. And
Yeah.
just to clarify for those listening, so and for my own clarification as well. So you're not, or maybe you are, you're not, I don't think, a placement agency. You're
Absolutely not.
actually coaching people who
Right.
want to find a different job or transition into a different job. So that's really where you're at, is coaching them and how to interview, what those skills are, and how to actually land like the job of their dreams.
Exactly. And I start, and one of the reasons why I don't identify with a company per se, I do actually do corporate work in a different vein. But
Hmm.
when I work with individuals, what I start with is not, what do you think you can get? I mean, we do talk about transferable skills. We talk about what gives them satisfaction in the day. We talk about, obviously, what they want their compensation and their lifestyle to be like. But we start with, what do you want? What is
Hmm.
it that makes you happy? What is it that gives you satisfaction at the end of the day? But there's a reason for that. And it's a reason that is directly linked to your success in interviewing and your success in your career. And one of the tenets of what I do is, of what I preach in term that's been successful for all the clients I've worked with, is the person always goes to the job. The job always goes to the person who wants it the most. And you
Mm.
cannot divorce the idea that you can make it inauthentic when you're
Mhm.
saying you want the job. It has to come from a place where you really want it, and that has to be the place where you start. All of my methodology, tool sets, skills, teaching, et cetera, boils down into three things. I was a consultant for a long time, so everything's in 3 bullet points, right? But it's that you need to do 3 things at any stage of the job search process. You need to prove that you understand what the job is, because we're going to be
Mhm.
looking for you to know what you're getting into, because we don't want somebody to take the job and be like, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was. I'm out of here. The second is that you can do the job based on your skill set, because by the same token, we don't want somebody coming in and saying, I can't do R. I have no idea
Mhm.
what R is. Why did you hire me? And the third thing is that you want the job, because the
Mhm.
people who want it the most are going to be the people that work the hardest to do a good job. So
Mhm.
everything starts from a candidate's perspective, and frankly, from an employer's perspective, with who's the person that wants it the most. Because in my
Yeah.
experience, when I needed to hire somebody, it was always a case that, we'd bring in 6 candidates the first time, and 4 candidates the second time, and 2 candidates the third time, and I'd bring in my team and I'd say, okay, you guys, what do you think? Who should we hire? And they'd go, they're both kind of the same, but this person wants it more. And we'd
Mm.
always pick the person who wants it more to get the job, just simply
Mm.
because it meant they would be more enthusiastic. They'd likely pick things up faster, and they'd work harder to keep it.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that, so in I'm a business coach, and so I work with all business
Oh,
owners,
okay,
and then I
great.
have I have my own businesses too. And one of the things that I have seen is such a shift in candidates. And I'm curious to see what you see from your side as far as the people that you're working with, because before COVID, if I put out a job ad for a salesperson, a VA, a whatever that I was looking for in my business, I would routinely get 40, 50, 60 resumes, like very
Hmm.
quickly, lots of resumes, huge candidate pool. I would say it was probably harder digging through all these resumes to find the person that I wanted. Now, the last position that I hired for was a sales position. I want to say I put it out there and I probably got, 8 resumes, like just so many fewer candidates that it seemed to be out in the pool. And with my business coaching clients, I hear this too, where so many of them, I have a manufacturing company right now that has been trying to hire people for the last 2 years and
Yeah.
literally cannot find any candidates. And so I would just love to hear from your side, like, one, any thoughts on what happened? Like, where did everybody go? Like, they must still be here somewhere. And
Yeah.
have you seen a dip in the availability of qualified candidates? And I just love to hear your thoughts on that.
I have heard that. And obviously, I work for people come to me because they want new jobs.
Mhm.
So I'm not as familiar with the reasons why. It's astounding to me, the statistics, and there's been some good new ones from the National Labor Board, from the Pew Foundation, from Gallup, and from Microsoft about what is going on, not necessarily about the reduction in overall candidates, but the reasons behind what's going on as a result of COVID. And the statistics are that we're not out of this situation where people are leaving their jobs without another one, which says to me that they're not going to be quick to jump back into the pool. And my guess is that people are very shell shocked and really feel bad. And what I've seen happen is a couple of things. The first is that, and I'm going to take a long perspective. I'm going to start out with a very big picture.
Yeah.
Since I joined the workforce, and again, I just turned 60, so I am old, but since I joined the workforce and technology, the rapid change in technology has changed just about everything we do in business, right? So there's been the way we communicate, the way we produce, the way we distribute, the way we manufacture, the way we interact with each other. Everything has changed about the workforce. And for the last 30, 40 years, everything that we as managers have done has been focused on just keeping our head above water and trying to stay away from being distinct. If you look at the list of publications of leadership books coming out of places like Harvard Business School Press, et cetera, everything is leadership, 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 nothing about management. And management has become kind of a token little, oh, wasn't that cute when we were focused on managing? And what I've seen happen with the people that I work with is that so many, I mean, I have anecdotal evidence, but it's almost 100% of the clients that I've worked with have said, I am so burnt out because when one or two of either my colleagues, my peers, my boss, or someone who works for me has left, they haven't been replaced. And I take on their role. I do not get a title adjustment. I do not get a salary bump. I take on the role of another FTE, and I'm expected to appreciate it and not say anything. And those are the people that are leaving. And I think those are when you say where those people have gone, they're the people that are just fed up and burnt out. And frankly, as if I was running a company or I was a consultant to that company, I would say, sure, let's try it. Let's try to get by with as few people as we can and see how far we can get. Well, we've reached the point of inflection. And those people who come in and I say to them, well, did you have a job description? Did you have a job description for the job that you wanted that was far above you? Nope. Did you know what the pay scale was for the next job in line? Nope. Did you speak to your manager regularly? One of the most stunning numbers that I've seen came out of the Microsoft study that said, I think 80% of their managers were unsure of how productive, they were concerned about how productive their employees were being at home doing remote work. And what was astounding to me that didn't get mentioned as in the analysis of those studies was now 87% of managers don't know how productive their employees are being. They're not checking in with them. They don't know what's going on. Like that's just an example of how incredibly detached workforces and managers are. So from what I see, what the numbers keep saying again and again and again, our employees are quitting because lack of pay, commensurate pay, lack of communication in the from their manager, and feeling, or I'm sorry, I'm mixing, lack of pay, lack of feeling valued, commensurate with pay, and feeling disrespected, and lack of opportunities. So those three things: lack of opportunity, low pay for what they're doing, and feeling disrespected by their companies. And all three of those things are management issues. So if there are fewer people who are looking to get back into the workforce, it's because they're afraid of those things. So as potential employers, I think there's two things that certainly that can be done. First of all, to be able to advertise your jobs as being value for the work that you're doing. So to be that you're going to have opportunity for advancement, that you're going to be considered a culture where you're valued, and I'll talk about ways that you can do that in a second, and that you're going to have opportunities for advancement. Now, all of those things are fairly simple things to do. And when I talk about culture and feeling respected as opposed to disrespected, I was on a panel of human resources people recently, and someone said, well, to make our people feel like they're in a good culture, we send them snack boxes. And I was like, oh my God, that's how you build a culture. And everyone else on the panel was like, where do I get them? And I thought, the way you build a culture is to promote people from within. You get some statistics going. You say, I tell my clients, one of the questions they want to ask is how many people, what was the job? What is the person who last held this job doing now? How many people who've had this role have stayed in the company? The kind of culture you want to create isn't a false culture where you have Zoom beers at 5:00. It's the kind of culture that and small business owners are probably the best at doing this than anybody. So I hope your listeners are hearing this and go, oh, I can advertise that. About the company descriptions can say, this is a company where, the average tenure is 6 or 7 years. The average, people stay, don't leave, they get promoted up, et cetera. So that's the kind of culture that people are looking for, where they feel respected, where they have an opportunity to move up. Some simple housekeeping, like having job descriptions where people understand what they're doing now, what they need to do to get to the next level, making sure that that can happen for them. That's really housekeeping. That's staying on top of what you're doing and what you're building in your company. And it doesn't just allow the employee some benefit. It allows you some benefit, because then you're doing succession planning. Then you're building for the future. Then you're doing the kinds of things that you need to do to make sure that you're building the kind of organization that you want, that's in a structured way and not a haphazard way. So that's an opportunity to just do some basic stuff that, of course, and I'm in the last 30 years, everyone's been running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Nobody's had enough time to do any of these things. Your listeners might be going, oh my God, yeah, that, and I'll build a rocket to the moon when I have some time. But there are ways to do this as simply as possible, even if, you think of the bare minimum and get it into the file somehow, and let people write their own job descriptions. Let people, come talk to each other. I mean, people write their own reviews, right? So let a boss and a colleague talk together. Like, what do you do that I don't do? What do I need to get? And then talk to people about, are there classes? There's so many online classes. If you need to understand SQL to get to the next level or to get more pay, talk about getting a SQL class. Maybe the company can pay for it. Maybe there's one that's free. Those are the kinds of things that you can build in, or allow your employees to build it in. And that's what retains people. So those three things: lack of opportunities for advancement. Those are things that you can even get straightened out within the workforce you have now. Low pay. those are the kinds of things you can advertise for, or you can do a market benchmark study or talk to people about it. There may not be anything you can do about it, but you can push the other two levers. And then feeling disrespected. That's something that you can do as simple as a communication plan where you're asking your managers to check in with people maybe every other week. It can be as little as 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it can be 3 questions. It can say, how are you feeling about what you're doing? Do you need additional work? Do you need additional tools you feel like to grow and to get to the next level? And what can I tell you about what's going on? You're an important member of the team. Here's what I can share with you. What else would you like to know? Or what else can I share with you about something that's going on in another part of the division? What else would you like to do? That's free. You probably are going to need to build it into your manager's incentive plan. That's the only way to make sure that it happens and to keep them from grumbling. But it's within it's in your toolbox. So you may as well use it, and that's how you can keep people, and that's how you can keep people for free. Those are some simple tools you can put in place to keep people, and think about using those same tools when you're advertising for people. A culture that promotes from within, that builds their people, and also communicates with them and respects them by that communication. Communication is really the best form of respect. I care about you enough, regardless of your position, to tell you what is going on, where we're investing, where we're building, what we're going to do to invest in you or not, depending on what you want to do in terms of where the company's going and where do you want to go.
Well, I love this so much because even as an employer, when you find that the candidate pool seems to be shrinking, knowing what you can do to keep the good people that you have
Yeah,
right now and really develop them, like that is so very, very helpful. It's even got me thinking about, oh gosh, my team is just like, oh, maybe I need to like shift a few little things there because I do want to make sure that I continue to develop the people that I have and promote from within. So that is so very helpful. In
good.
with the candidates that you work with. So, a small business owner cannot always compete on price. They
Hmm.
can't always, pay the most. Maybe like a small business owner compared to a larger corporation.
Of course,
They
yep.
may not be able to always like, just compete based on salary. And so if you're a small business owner and you're kind of in that position, what are some things that you're seeing with the candidates that you work with? Are they all just money driven? I kind of doubt that, but are they all just like money driven and highest bidder wins? Or are there really other areas that they're looking at that are of value to them that are not financial based?
Gallup actually says the Gallup statistic results are that pay is equal to feeling respected and feeling valued by a corporation. And I think the larger statistics are that it is not pay that drives people in an organization. Now, millennials are a little different than that. I wish I had the exact statistics at my fingertips, but if somebody wanted to look it up, and there's psychological studies about what drives people, it is not the pay that keeps them in a company. It is feeling validated, valued. It is because we all know people been paid a lot and just left because they couldn't take it anymore, right?
Hmm.
I had a friend who she was I think she was the 30th person hired at Amazon directly by Jeff Bezos, and she left before her stock options matured, and she would be worth quite a lot today, but she does not regret it. She really did not like working for him. At any rate, there's definitely research. The statistics say it's not just money. With the exception of millennials, who I think skew a little bit more towards money, I believe the statistics say that feeling valued, validated, and respected are as big a driver as money for just about everybody. So investing in, I guess, advertising for new candidates would be difficult to get that across without it sounding kind of cheesy, unless you had the numbers that, we believe in promoting from within. When you join our company, we expect you to join at this level, but we expect we're hiring for, we expect you to join at this level, but to joint to be a part of us when you're at that level, something, words to that effect. You are probably, if you have any statistics around what you have done for other people, keep those. Put it in business. If you put it in harder terms, if you're a client relationship building business, we need people to work with our clients for many years. That's how we develop long-term profits. So we're looking for people who are looking to stay with us for a long time. Anything about the way you value your employees. There are specific benefits packages that will give you paternity leave packages. I don't know how expensive those are. I know there are specific targeted packages that can be purchased that can set you apart from other employers. I should learn more about this, but I know that if you were to Google specific targeted packages, maybe for the demographic that you're looking to hire, that could be a specific, really good way to set yourself apart and to put those into your packages. And offering managerial coursework, even at the level of Walmart, I know is doing online courses for a lot of their workers. So they're workers that are doing inventory, trucking, that kind of thing. They're doing English language programs, all sorts of integration into to get them into hire more skilled laborers and not turn them over so quickly, because their studies say that's what they wanted. The cost of losing an employee is at any level, I think, is between 2.5 and 4 times their salary. So they're paying for an outside vendor to come in and do that. But you could put in place, I'm sure it would be cheaper to be put in place some kind of benefit or education package, which caters to that, which would be able to keep people. In terms of attracting people, what I always tell clients is to look for postings on association, industry association job boards, to go to alumni networks. Your database password and username for alumni is a very important part of job searching. I also tell people to follow blogs on LinkedIn by thought leaders, to look for jobs that may not be posted yet, or to look for people that they really admire. That way they both have the education to drop something that might be new and exciting into an interview. And they also may be able to reach out to that person and say, hey, if you know of any jobs. So those are all things I would encourage employers to do. Post their jobs in smaller pools where they'll get better qualified candidates. Respond to alumni, LinkedIn. You post their jobs on Handshake, which is what most colleges use these days. And also put on your LinkedIn, put on your social, we're hiring. Be somebody between hires who publishes about what it is that you do, publish about what your company does for its employees. I also tell everybody to follow any company on social media that they may be interested in working for. So putting that out that you are investing in your employees with any kind of program is likely to help up your application pool once they do a Google search and look at those past posts or are following you anyway.
Oh, I love all these ideas. So great. Honestly, I'd not heard of Handshake, so that's a great one. And you said the colleges are using this. Okay.
Yes, almost every college uses Handshake as an internal job board.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a very, very good tip. I'm gonna put that one in my toolbox and use it with my clients when they go, "Hey, where do I find people?"
Great.
I would say probably one of the biggest complaints I hear from my clients is that millennials, and you work with a lot of millennials and help them find jobs, is that millennials just don't have the work ethic. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, is this a load of crap, or is this really true? You work with a lot of millennials. Do you see that they have, a good work ethic, or is it a different work ethic? Like, what do you see? Because this is something I hear of, like, let's call it, 40 to 55 age range. A lot of us grew up just working our butts into the ground. And so we probably do have a slightly different work ethic. I know I look at my children who are 23 and 20, and even their work ethic, my son and my daughter, is very different between the two of them. So I'm just curious, like, what do you see in working with so many of these millennials as far as their work ethic?
So a lot of it is, millennials are now like in their 30s. And the Gen Zs are the newest ones coming up.
Mm-hmm.
The what I've written on this, the main difference to understand, of course, I hate the sweeping generalization of any kind, but I do
Mm-hmm.
understand what people are saying when they say
Yeah.
that, and certainly I have clients that can be on that spectrum. Um, uh, the main difference I find is when we grew up, we were kind of sent off on our own to go on our bikes. We were, went out on our bikes and we're told, see you at dinner, right? So we sort of
Mm-hmm.
had our own, we were, had to do our own, make our own fun,
Mm-hmm.
figure out what we were going to do for the day. Here's a
Right.
lunch and go out, go out with your friends, see what you're going to
Right.
do.
Get out of the house, go play. I'll see you
Right,
tonight. Like, yeah.
right, right.
Go entertain yourself. There's no video games. You're not sitting in front of a
Yeah,
computer, a TV, a
yeah,
screen all
yeah. No
day.
screen.
Like you have
Yeah.
to, right, use your
You
imagination, get
figure
out
it
of my
out.
sight. Yeah,
Figure it
yeah,
out. Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Uh, this generation has been scripted since day one. Here's your piano lesson. Here's your computer
Mm.
lesson. Here's this lesson. Here's your hour of time with your friend. And here's your downtime, that 45 minutes of downtime before your homework starts. What happens in an office setting is that the manager will be sitting there saying, when is that kid going to do something? And the new employee is sitting in their cube saying, when am I going to be given something to do? So that can be a big disconnect that is really, I think, and I've done corporate sessions on this where we can be responsible for saying, look, this is what we need you to do. And this is the time you have to do it. And when you're done with this, ask for something else, or, look for what else you need to do. And it's been especially deadly for consulting firms where you kind of have to feed your own hopper, or salespeople where, you need to go out on your own and, you decide whether you're driving left or right out of the driveway and
Yeah.
fill up your own thing. So that can be the real disconnect. And there's certainly ways to get around it. And the biggest danger for millennials I found, or managing anybody really, is what I call and this is to do with the lack of management being valued, the management by path of least resistance. And this is when someone will go to their manager and give over a piece of work and say, here it is, I'm all done. And the manager will find one or two mistakes, but won't take the time to go tell their new employee or explain why it's wrong. And they'll just say, oh, thanks, that's great, thanks very much. And the kid thinks they're doing a great job. And the manager's like, on a couple of mistakes. And this happens 3 or 4 more times. And the kid's just chugging along, oh, I'm doing great. And the manager's keeping track of these mistakes. And it comes time for a review. And the manager's like, well, you're not really doing that great. And the kid's like, what? I had no idea. So that's another thing that I really advise people to, both managers and employees, to not fall into management by least resistance, because for the employers, the managers, they're really wasting valuable talent and assets by not taking the time to explain and train. And it's a lot of they're wasting time. They're not saving time. And for the kids to really be aggressive on their own and take their career, be their own career advocates and say, are you sure that's right? Is there anything I can do better next time? And usually kids are sort of afraid of feedback, which is a classic. And the managers probably are too, so they don't want to give it. So that's another whole session I do about using language. It's not that everybody understands. It's like, this is normal, this is training, this is, what we need to do. But that's a huge, huge problem and a huge loss of value that happens time and time again with the two different age groups.
Oh my goodness, so helpful. I know that there's so many business owners right now just listening to this and just getting so many great, valuable pieces of information.
Great.
Even
I'm so glad.
just listening to you, Amy, I'm just like, oh, right. So when I gave that project to the new intern and I said, go figure it out, that probably wasn't the best best idea. Because you're right, because so much of their lives have been scripted where we had to just figure it out. And that seems to kind of come a little bit more natural for us. So
Yeah.
I think that's great, great, helpful insight to help us just manage our people better and keep our people and develop them,
Yeah.
especially since it can be really difficult to find good people these days. So I love that.
Yeah. And that's part of the communications every other week where, even if
Yeah.
it's 15 minutes, just like this is something that I saw that you could be working on to do a better job in what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, love it so much. Amy, I'm sure there's people who are listening right now who are like, hey, how do I find out more about her? So why don't you just share a little bit about where can people find you online?
Sure. I'm at jobcoachamy.com. I am on both Meta platforms, Instagram and Facebook at Job Coach Amy. I have a TikTok account, Job Coach Amy _. And I think as far as, am I miss? Oh, and Twitter, Job Coach Amy F at Job Coach Amy F.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. You guys, I know there were so many great value points today that you shared with us. I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Oh, it was so fun. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
All right, you're welcome. All right, you guys, so many great information. Go check out Amy if you want to find out more information about her. If you need more information on some business coaching, you can always go check us. Always go check us out at jenniferdoncoaching.com. So that's it for today's show. Get out there and have a happy, productive day, y'all.